movie is Turning Red. So Turning Red is the story of May Lynn, a 13-year-old Asian American living in, well, I'm Asian American, Asian Canadian living in Toronto.
Canadian.
Yeah, not actually in America. It's in Toronto, I should say. In the year of our Lord 2002, May is getting along with her friends, making straight A's, and helping out at the family shrine. It's a family shrine to the mighty red panda that the Lynn family owns in Toronto. She gets along with her mom. Things are good. But one night she awakes to find that overnight she has turned into a giant red panda. And as a mark of adolescence, this is something all of the Lynn girls go through. May has to decide whether or not she wants to turn into a giant red panda whenever she gets really emotional, or if she wants to get rid of this curse and become a normal girl for the rest of her life. The movie is Pixar's latest feature. It was sent straight to Disney Plus, despite Pixar's best efforts. It was not released in theaters this weekend. And it's been surprisingly contentious, which I want to talk about a little bit. It hasn't been too contentious, but I feel like there are some people who...
There's been some hot takes.
Yeah, have some interesting hot takes about this movie. So we'll get to the kind of the public perception, I think, at the end. But for now, Andy, I got to know, what did you think of Turning Red?
So I really liked it. It's a sweet movie. I will say some people are absolutely in love with it. Some people are just having really, really positive emotional reactions to it, and that's really great. That's what we want from cinema. I do not feel that strongly about it. I do like it. I do think it's good, but some people are just think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I did think it is good. It has a fun story of, adolescence, coming of age, represented by the red panda, and there's a lot of other, it's about even though it's about these young girls, there's still a lot that everyone can kind of relate to, because it's about the awkwardness of your body changing, the awkwardness of, you start to have feelings for the opposite sex, you stop getting along with your parents. It's those kinds of adolescent struggles, and it's told through these, a really funny animation of like the panda bursting forward. And it's funny because she gets like just little, if she doesn't get totally worked up, she just gets like her arm will turn into a paw, or she'll get like the ears, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's a really like cute and fun movie, and I was glad I was able to watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. So Andy and I are at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to Turning Red, and I think this may be part of that like critical reception it's been getting. And like I said, I'll talk about the end. I don't mean for this to sound as slanted as it does, but we are not necessarily in like the time. I don't want to.
We're not the target. We're not
May Lynn, right? We're not
13-year-old
girls in 2002. We're not 13-year-old girls at all. We never will be. And that's a challenge, because a lot of Turning Red isn't just about adolescence and puberty. It's about having your first period, which is something that Andy and I obviously have never had to experience. And I think a lot of people have been like surprisingly turned off by this. They think it's maybe too adult. They think it's not really for kids. They think it's like too over the top, too on the nose with the messaging. And I uniquely disagree. I think Turning Red is kind of important because I've never seen a movie that addresses this stage of adolescence for this very large group of people in a way that's so direct, but also so charming and accessible, because it's not just about like a young girl having her first period. It's about growing up and being excited about something. For May Lynn and her group of friends, it's this boy band called Four Town that they're super excited about. And it's about having those kind of horse blinders on when you're a kid and just being so infatuated with something that you can't get over it. You get emotional about it and you can't control that. And the world around you doesn't understand it. And how your parents deal with that. I think the message it's telling is important. And I also really love the way it tells it. Turning Red is this like really brilliant tribute to anime. Director Domishi is a huge anime fan. Her last work was a short with Pixar called Bow. I forget which movie that ran in front of, but really good short. And she wanted Turning Red to be like this very visual representation of Canada and growing up in Toronto, but also like magical transformation anime, right? Just like Sailor Moon, and
Yeah. Yeah,
there's all kinds. There's
there's
all
a
kinds of anime stuff in here. Like just from the trappings of what they wear to their faces and how they act. A lot of the animation, like very anime. So combine those two things, this important story about adolescence and like anime, and put it in a Pixar blender. Like, what's not to love? Like, I think it's great. So yeah, like that's how I've come out on this. But I want to talk about the movie proper, and I know I'm talking way too much. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. So one of the things that this movie does so well is just representation. First of all, I saw this was the only like the fourth movie in the 25 films that Pixar has made that has had a female lead. So it's representation, and it's a young Chinese girl and her family. And also, yes, it doesn't shy away from the topic of menstruation, which is also not the focus though. Like that's like when she
No.
turns into the red panda, like it's an allegory, yes, but the movie is not about menstruation at all. There's a couple of jokes, and that's what I've talked with several women about this, and they said that's what they loved, is that the movie wasn't afraid to like talk about it, to show like those things, the things involved in that, because they said I've never seen that on a show, especially one for young girls, and that's a very important thing that happens, and that there's no reason not to talk about.
Yeah, very much so. And it also like has this wonderful kind of story running underneath it of a daughter trying to connect with her mom. And at the beginning of the movie, this is going great. Like the mom and the daughter get along great, and things are good, and she likes helping out at home, even though her friends think she's totally brainwashed because she like runs home every night to help out at the shrine. But that starts to there starts to be a divide there, and these two very similar characters start to trek away from each other, and it's bringing them back together. That makes that's what am I trying to say here? It's a really good B plot. That's what I'm trying to say,
Right.
I guess. And go ahead.
Right. So part of how this, okay, we have the premise. She turns into the panda. She's trying not to turn into the panda. But how do we move forward? So the kind of larger plot that's happening is that the boy band Four Town, of which there are 5 members, are coming to town, and they want to see him, but it's expensive. It's $200 a ticket, and they're 13-year-olds. They don't have any money, so they start to hustle the panda there, like because everyone at school loves the panda, so they start basically doing like a show in the bathroom. Pay us $5, you can see the panda, you can pet the panda, and so they start hustling hard to raise money to go to the show. Obviously, this harebrained scheme goes wrong at some point, and feelings are hurt, and things are undone. But that's part of what is keeping this movie going. So we have a very relatable, plot of the kids are trying to go to the concert that their parents don't want them to go to, kind of.
Yeah, and Mei Lin's mom obviously is trying to protect her, right? She wants to keep her daughter safe from this red panda curse, but also she doesn't want her to go to a boy band concert, right, with a bunch of boys and hip hop lyrics, like, and she doesn't really like her friends either. And Mei Lin is put in this really interesting position because she has to manage this home life and school life, and school life is a much better reflection of who she really is. That's her personality, right? But her home life is where she comes from, like, and that's tradition, and that's who she's supposed to be. So Turning Red, like, is surprisingly efficient in its 96 minutes. It's got good pacing. It moves really quickly. We are bouncing from scene to scene, and I really, really like the animation, the way it's presented. And a surprising number of people have said that it's simple. They said, "Well, this is like Pixar dumbed down," and I don't get why people think that. I guess because of the anime trappings, like it's some of the facial animations are a little simpler, but like that's stylistic. That's the point. It's like saying Luca is bad animation because it's dumbed down. Like, no, you're missing the point. Like it's supposed to be that way. And Toronto's beautiful in this movie. Like I love the colors of everything here. It's a lot of neons, lots of bright hues, lots of pastels and sunsets and the skies. Really tremendous presentation. I love the way it looks, and I love the way it moves.
Yeah, I definitely caught the anime references, and it's not just in the facial things. They take a lot. It's also in the characters' reactions and some of the action, particularly. The third act has a lot of action, and it's much more than I expected this movie to have. And yeah, a lot of it is completely taken out of like in any modern anime that you're watching, which is just a neat little thing that makes it really, really unique.
Yeah, and it's got a good script too. I think Turning Red's funny. I didn't laugh a lot, but it was a lot of smiles from the couch for me. Meanwhile, my wife was watching with me. She thought it was hilarious, so maybe that's uh, a soft review from her. But it's funny. It moves efficiently, and I didn't feel like I was left out. I think that's something that people have said that well, if you're not a young girl, then this doesn't apply to you and you don't get it. No, that's not how movies work. Like there's a lesson here, whether you're a boy or a girl or anything anywhere. Like you can be yourself, right? You can learn something new and do new things, and I think that's exciting. And that's something that Turning Red does. It does something I haven't seen in other films. I think that's important, right? That stands out.
Mhm.
Not everybody feels that way.
Yeah, I think one of the things is May Lynn and her friends, like they look like teenagers, like they look like these kind of like sweet dorky girls, as opposed to
Mhm.
like I don't know, something like Euphoria that has like models portraying
Yeah.
high school
God.
kids. It reminded me a little bit of eighth grade as well, because eighth grade does that as well. The Bo Burnham film from few years ago, which is about the hardships of growing up, and the awkwardness, yeah, just the difficulty of coming of age. And yes, where are we segueing to the controversy?
Just about. I did want to say though, I definitely also thought about eighth grade from Bo Burnham. Like same kind of
Mhm.
energy here. Like this movie really gets inside its character's head, and that character is such a far cry from what I'm used to seeing. I don't see like we don't see movies from the perspective of young girls in modern times with texting and cell phones. I mean, Turning Red is in 2002, but fundamentally it's a very similar vibe. Maybe even a good double feature. The controversy. Andy, what
Dun, dun,
do
dun.
you want to explain this or should I?
I only learned about this morning, actually.
Yeah,
So,
so Turning Red, when the embargo lifted, to start putting out reviews a few days before the film came out, one of the reviews from I think it was San Antonio, I think it was the Texas joint. A San Antonio reporter basically trashed it, and they said this movie doesn't work. It's all about puberty, and that's bad. I'm not a 13-year-old girl, so it can't apply to me. This is terrible. And since then, I think the publication pulled that review, and
yeah,
people have
man went after him
yes. And what's
on
weird
Twitter.
is I think independently of that, a lot of other people have been arriving at the same conclusion. Like there's a surprising number of people who are coming out of this movie like down bad or something. Like I don't get it. I don't. And it's confusing to me. So I think it's worth talking about at least for a minute because I think if you like this movie and you've bothered to listen to this review, you might already be aware of that. And I just wanted to I don't know get Andy's hot take. I
Yeah.
guess.
Right. So that's, I mean, to me, that's just blatant sexism, because the majority of films have male leads, and it's something like only 25% to a third of films have female leads at all. So I mean, we're used to only seeing male protagonists, and the one time you have a female protagonist, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't relate to it at all.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just kind of basic sexism. The other thing is like that, and that reviewer, it literally said this is Pixar's horniest film, which I find really grotesque to describe, like, middle schoolers that way. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, there are elements of them. They're starting to have feelings for the opposite sex, or starting to develop like small crushes. We just call that romance, man. We don't.
Yeah.
There's nothing sexual about it, and that's the thing. Like when we've had these same issues with male-led films, and yeah, when it's that, it's romance, but when it's for teenage girls, it's, oh, you guys made a horny film. So I found that really pretty distasteful way of describing it. And yeah, but it's a whole lot of like, oh, because they're like fawning over the boy band, as girls do,
Yeah. Like every
like
13-year-old girl ever. Yeah. Right.
um
Um.
and
No.
it's completely fine. So that's yeah, I was shocked. I literally woke up this morning and there was like a message on my phone asking me like, what are your thoughts on this controversy? And I was like, what
Yeah.
controversy? I have no
What
thoughts at all.
controversy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's weird because like I said, he's not the only reviewer to arrive at this conclusion. Like since it's come out, a lot of amateur critics, audiences have said this. Like I think it had, if I remember correctly, it's something like a 90 90% on critics from Rotten and like a 66 from audiences on Rotten,
Mhm.
because a lot of audience members feel this way. And it's I think you're right. Number
Salty
one,
men, that's what that
it's
sounds like.
sexism, yeah, and it's this pearl clutching attitude. Number two, I think this the analogy, or really even the running theme of like this young girl growing into adolescence and having her first period is like shockingly taboo for a group of people out there that need to get over themselves. Like, this is not a big deal. It's really not. It's a movie. Movies
Well,
are about escapism. And go
well,
ahead.
what was I can't remember what was the movie with like middle schoolers that had a ton of like sex jokes in it from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Jacob
bad
Tremblay was
kids. Yeah,
yeah,
bad
something
words.
like that.
Something. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that's the thing. Like you'll put out what is essentially a raunchy teen comedy with a bunch of 13-year-old, like 10, like 11, 12, 13-year-old boys, and
Right.
no one says anything, but like you have four adolescent women very innocently fawning over,
Yeah.
you know,
In a Disney feature.
pop stars, and all of a sudden it's way too sexual.
Right. This is South Park controversy all over again. Kids saying curse words. Oh no. Like, yeah. And I think it's petty. And lastly, and I think maybe the most important lesson from this, like, Pixar does not always make movies that are exactly for the audience they appear to be. Soul, like, looks like it would, like, on its surface, if you muted Soul and couldn't see anything, like you were just watching it with no sound on, you might think it's a kid's movie. You might think it's a movie for children. It's got bouncy little characters. It's not. That's a movie for adults. Like, that's a movie with adult themes. It's about adults. Kids, I think, can enjoy it, maybe. But that's not exactly who that's for. And like, it's frustrating when somebody says, well, this movie's not for me and therefore I don't like it. It's like, I'm not even sure if you understand who it's for, because it's and if you did, I don't think you'd enjoy it anyway. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, weird controversy around Turning Red. It seems unnecessary. I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit. With that being said, Andy, any other thoughts or recommendations?
I'm ready.
Oh, one more thing. Decent soundtrack from Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas. So surprised that
Yeah,
they
that's right.
really
That's
managed to nail like the boy band like 2002 sound. So good for them. Andy, would you recommend Turning Red?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. It's a sweet coming of age story. A really important film for representation, for even just representation of a subject matter that for some reason is absent from most young cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's a lot of it's a lot of fun. It's funny. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. And again, this was going to be a big theatrical release, but then family films haven't been doing particularly well in the pandemic, so that's why it came out on Disney Plus. So I would highly recommend.
I'd recommend it as well. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, okay. There's going to be some people out there who aren't going to like this, but that's like every movie, and those people, I would say, probably should watch it because it would help them grow as people. Like, I don't think
I
there's
mean,
anything wrong with what
there's
Turning Red's
always
doing.
people that are
Yeah.
not going to like a movie that has a female lead,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, my stars and garters. Yeah. I can't believe they did this. I'm bummed Turning Red did not come to theaters. I am. I was going to see a movie with a buddy yesterday that works in animation, and he was like, what do you want to watch? I said, I guess the Batman, because literally nothing else came out last weekend.
Yeah.
Uncontested slate. This movie could have dropped. Nothing else would have ran against it except week 2, week 3 of the Batman. I'm bummed. I'm bummed. And Andy's right. Like, Andy's right. Like, these movies are doing fine on Disney Plus, and that is not a bad thing. Like, this movie got pushed to Disney Plus. But like, I would have liked to have seen the spectacle of what's happening here on a big screen. That's all. I like watching movies at the movies. All
Yeah,
right. That's there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
not quite the same
it would have been a good crowd pleaser, would have been a fun movie to see with a group for sure.
Yeah. Would have been good. Could have taken my cool wife for a date night. Would have been great. Anyway. That's Turning Red. With that being said,